Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Gina, and in today's video I'm going to be finishing off the book Nook. If you haven't watched the first one, please stop right here, go and watch that video. I'll put the link in the description below. Today we're going to be finishing off all the final details. We're going to be putting in the figurines which I've painted in a previous video, so I'll also put the link in the description below. So without further ado, let's get started. So once I cut out the arch, I started by adding on pieces of foam board to the top and the bottom. This was to bulk it out and to give it a lot more solid structure. I'm going to be putting a mirror in behind here to give the illusion of depth into the project, so it needed to have a bit of substance. I'm also going to be using the same trick that I've used before of using hot glue into these silicone molds. And this is to create some stone carving details which will look the part once it's all painted up. And here I've used some balsa wood to get the curved detail around the arch. And then once the hot glue is cooled down and solid again, these pop out really easily from the molds. I'm using some more balsa wood cut into strips, which are the same width as the curve around the top. And this is to add in the extra details of the column of the arch along with the top portion as well. Adding in the decorative pieces with the hot glue from the molds and a piece of foam board for the top of the arch. For the paint effect, I'm starting with this base coat colour and then stippling layers of lighter colours, basically the base coat colour mixed with a bit of white, until a final light coat of plain white. And for these windows I've used some more balsa wood and just cut those details out. And for the roof I've used some mat board, and this gives me the flexibility to mould it into this more arch shape, which is going to fit quite nicely over the top of those windows. And then with a quick coat of black paint and Mod Podge, that's the roof for this particular part all done. And moving on to making some curtains now. These will sit behind those arch windows, and I've used a mix of PVA and water to completely coat the fabric before shaping it. Once this is dry, it will hold its shape and give it some weight, although I do want one to look like it's blowing out the window, so I've tried to shape it in that way. And now using a piece of foam board, another piece of foam board, I'm adding it in to add in the window sill detail, and then I can attach the roof and then also the windows. But one thing I didn't do is get a shot of the curtains in place, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak preview of the final result. And here you can see the curtain blowing out the window. And so to create the roadway, I'm using mat board, and then I'm just layering up the footpath areas to give it a slight definition to the footpath. And then I've decided to cut out individual bricks from cardstock. This was a really smart idea. And then glue them into place individually. This is going to give me the look that I'm actually after. I didn't want everything to be absolutely lined up and perfect, so it's a little bit more haphazard. And it also allowed me to kind of curve the bricks round ever so slightly so that I could line it up with the archway, which is ultimately going to have the mirror, because I didn't want a really hard line and I wanted to use the bricks to differentiate where that line is. It'll make more sense once it comes together. So after a coat of my black paint and Mod Podge mix and then a dry brush of medium grey, I've come back in with some pastels to add in some shading and then also to give it a completely matte finish. For the background, I wanted to extend the arch details into a wall. This is going to sit round the corner of one part of the project, and that's mainly because where the buildings fit into place there are some gaps, and this was the easiest way that I came up with to actually fill in those gaps. And so what I wanted to do was actually paint this onto a bit of sketchbook paper. And the reason why I've done this is because instead of building it out with mat board or foam board, I actually didn't want the bulk in the project, and I really wanted this to just sort of add the illusion of that sort of detail in behind there without it actually taking away from the details in the arch. So I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. You don't see a lot of it anyway, but I've just tried to match it in as best as I can to all of the paint colours and the techniques that I used for the stonework as well. Because the book nook is centered around a French bakery, I also wanted to give the hint of the Eiffel Tower just in the background there, and then also to fill in some gaps where the buildings don't quite cover the background there. I'm just actually going to be painting in some treetops. They kind of look like shrubs, but they will give the appearance of treetops once the project is put together. So I've gone ahead and glued these two walls into place, and now I'm adding in some foliage and some water details. This will help the line created by the mirror, and also for the water I've used UV resin. So this is the first time I've used UV resin, and here I'm adding in some more water details at the bottom of the downpipe and using a toothpick to spread it around, and then coming back in with the UV light to cure it. So I've glued the building frontage to a large piece of foam board, so when it's all glued in place, this creates the box for the book nook. Sorry about my head being in the way. And here you can see it all kind of coming together. There's a few more details to add, which we'll add in a second, but you can see the Eiffel Tower in the background and the treetops and the wall around the back there as well. And these are the little miniatures, the figurines, the people that I painted up in a previous video. I'll put the link in the description if you wanted to go and check that out. And now it's time to give them a home. And I'm trying to place them into the project to tell a little bit of a story, so that when you look at it and without much direction from me, you get the feeling and the essence of what that story might actually be. This has been such a fun project to do, and I've really enjoyed it. Definitely learned a few things along the way, as I always do, and keen to try and put some of these into another build, which actually will be coming up very shortly too. So watch the space. There's always more things and new things to learn on this channel, especially for me. So thank you to all of my subscribers and coming along on this journey with me. Without you, this channel would never be what it is, and I wouldn't get the opportunity to really push myself and learn so many new things that I possibly wouldn't have done. So thank you all very much for doing that. So if you do like this video, consider hitting that like button, and if you want to know what I've got coming up next, hit that subscribe button, push that bell notification, and then you'll get notified when the next video is coming up. And also I've added a couple more videos at the end that I think you might like, and until next time, I'll see you in the next one.